Over the last 20 years, you can argue no brand has been more innovative and has pushed the boundaries of watchmaking than A. Lange Sohne. Today, I'm joined by Rich to discuss some of their most complicated and also their most artistic pieces. So let's get right into it. Rich, thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
I know you're a big connoisseur and also a huge fan of the Lange brand, so I figured there was nobody better to join me than, of course, you.
Thank you.
Obviously, it's a brand that's been around again since the 1994, right? Resurrected by the great-grandson, if I'm not mistaken,
Correct.
as well as
Lange.
as well as a long-forgotten hero of the watch industry, Gunter Blumlein, right? I think an amazing visionary. Obviously, their design language has changed over the last 20 or so years. What would you say kind of defines a Lange timepiece?
Oof. I think that they really stay true to tradition and their DNA. You know, the three-quarter plate is something that's very important to Lange with their pocket watch history, going back to, you know, the initial days of the brand itself. But they're unapologetically Lange. You know, they don't follow the norms, and they're really a movement company first and foremost. They're all about the movement. And I think what they've been able to achieve with the number of movements that they've created literally out of air, when you think about it, 31 years, is absolutely mind-blowing.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I don't think there's any other brand that comes really close other than FP Journe, right? It's the only other brand I think that has been as innovative as A. Lange Sohne, right? And although their technical prowess, I think, is right there with anybody in the industry, I think what is amazing about A. Lange Sohne is a watch that we have right in front of us is also their artistic capability, right? Although Germans are kind of known for like their strong lines and their solid forms and like, you know, very kind of German style. This watch, when we got it, I was so excited because, I mean, we'll probably never see another one of these.
No, you know, I'm really excited to talk about this piece. So this is a Grand Cabaret.
Grand Arcade.
I'm sorry, the Grand Arcade.
Yeah.
And what's special about an arcade is that was part of the original 4 launches in 1994. The arcade itself was originally, we'd call it today a woman's watch.
Yeah.
It was a smaller size, and then they later introduced a Grand Arcade. This is a Grand Arcade. The reference number on this is 106046. I've been doing this for 6 years. I was the director of a Lange boutique for 5 years. I've never seen a Grand Arcade in person. This watch, though, is like that on steroids. The dial is completely hand engraved. It's very reminiscent of a hand Kunstwerk dial. The pattern is absolutely insane.
Yeah.
I don't know anything about this watch. I reached out to Lange. I reached out to my friends in the Lange community.
Yeah.
No one has ever seen this watch, and it is absolutely stunning. We had the opportunity to acquire this. I reached out to a very important collector of mine who deserves this in his collection, and he jumped on it immediately.
Yeah,
but I don't know we're ever going to see this again.
I don't think so. Well, to put into context, right? Obviously, the arcade is a little bit different than kind of its not predecessor, but rather its when it came after. I forget the word for it, but essentially its successor.
Yeah.
So the successor, you would say, was the Cabaret.
I would. Yeah.
Although they kind of worked hand in hand, right? They were being produced at the same time. This is kind of a more rounded square or rounded rectangle, rather.
Correct.
Right. And what's also awesome, just like the Cabaret, it's a shape movement. And this is only a movement that was used in here, right? I believe with the
Correct.
Cabaret, it was
It's
a
a
brand
separate movement.
Right,
Yeah.
it's a whole different movement. So it was made specifically for this case and specifically for this watch. And again, this motif. So you'll come across rare Langes, you know, limited editions that they do. But one thing you'll never see is these kind of handwork Kunst or the engraved floral dials ever come up for sale. I can tell you this, I've been doing this myself for almost 5 years now. I've seen maybe 2 in my lifetime, and one of them just came up recently in like the last couple of weeks, right?
Yeah.
So that's just how kind of rare you'll ever see these kind of watches come up because they just never do. In terms of like Lange itself, right? You'll see Lange ones, you'll see datagraphs, you'll see 1815s, 1815 chronographs. Even you'll see the odd turbograph and like super rare, you know, super complicated watches. The one watch that I come across the least is an arcade, by far and away.
Yeah.
Just because they probably produced it the least amount in terms of like physical quantity, and it was a huge bust at the time, right? It just didn't really sell well. And that was kind of the story of what I've heard behind this. I've heard 2 stories. I don't know if either are true, but this is kind of just what I heard. So I heard less than 5 of these were made, but I've heard 2 different versions. One, that it was a huge bust and it was basically abandoned. And the other was it was a special order from a client, which would make sense. This is a pre-2010s watch, which wouldn't be out of the ordinary for a brand to take a special order. I think it would probably still be very rare, but for the right collector, they probably would do it.
And one thing that's very interesting about Lange is when you go back to old Lange, they did a lot of unique stuff.
Oh, 100%.
You know, one-of-a-kind pieces, diamond stuff, gem set stuff. You know, you go back to the Wellendorf bracelets. I mean, there was some funky, unique stuff that I don't think today they would ever do.
And they even did hyper complicated watches in steel cases, right? Like one that comes to mind is probably my favorite Lange is Pour Le Mérite Tourbillon. They made just one in a steel case for a collector, which I think is really, really special because steel on such a like complicated watch is something you'll never see. So they were not afraid to experiment. And what's so cool is you think about the artistry of a Lange Sohne, you go right to the mechanics, right?
Oh, absolutely.
It's about the movement. It's about the incredible finishing, the engraved balance cocks. The incredible German silver of the bridges, all the kind of little artistic qualities of the movement. But then you see it all there on the dial side, engraved there. It's just spectacular.
I can't stop talking about this watch.
Yeah.
You know, I took pictures,
this
I
watch
took videos.
we both wanted.
I know, yeah.
We both wanted
yeah,
to buy it for ourselves.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, I sit at home at night having a glass of wine and I just look at the picture and I zoom in and I look at the pattern and I'm like, I want this.
Yeah.
I have to have this. But, to hit your point though, arcades, I've seen women's arcades. I've seen the traditional ones. I've seen mother of pearl dials. I've seen diamond bezeled ones. I've seen blue dials. I've seen, Argenta. I've never even seen a grand arcade. I've never tried one on. This was the first time I ever tried on a grand arcade. I've always seen the traditional women's size, the original size. I'm in love with this watch. I'm like truly having a love affair with this piece. But I think what's unique too, and maybe you've seen something I haven't, I've never seen an engraved dial that wasn't a gold dial.
Yes.
And this is Argenta. This is German silver. So this is going to be your traditional Lange dial. I've never, outside of the Handkunstwerks, which I've never seen one of those in person either.
Right.
I've never seen a German silver dial engraved like this.
Yeah.
Everything about this is unbelievable.
Yeah, it's a really special piece. As soon as I saw it, honestly, I said, we got to add it to our stock just because I'll probably never see it again. And
I know.
Working out.
And what's cool with this is it's not masculine or feminine.
Right.
A man or woman could wear this.
100%.
But it is like a chunk of gold, so it's bold, it's loud, I love everything about this watch.
Yeah. Obviously, this is one of the original four, and then as I mentioned, probably one of my favorite of the original four is the Pour Le Mérite Tourbillon. What we have in front of us, I think, is kind of the natural update to it, right? Probably,
100%.
I would say, is it's essentially just a natural update. This is a Richard Lange Pour Le Mérite. It is also a tourbillon. What's cool about this is stop seconds tourbillon, and it has the same kind of chain and fusee mechanism, which, to put into context for people, when that was originally launched in 1994, right? This was the second timepiece that I know of that featured essentially what is known as a constant force mechanism. So
Correct.
essentially it provides an equal power
Never
supply
dips down.
over the course of a watch's power reserve. But the only other was the FP Journe tourbillon, which was originally released in 93, so 1 year prior. But this is the first time we saw this complication in wristwatch form.
And what I love about this watch in particular, to dive a little deeper, is it's a regulator dial.
Yeah.
Which I'm a sucker for a regulator
Same
dial.
here.
But even further, this has the retractable dial.
Yep.
So the hour section of the regulator dial, when you don't need those hours between 8 and 10 o'clock, the dial falls in so that the tourbillon's more exposed. I've never seen anything.
Never
like
seen
that on a
anybody do
watch.
that. And also it's a stop seconds tourbillon,
Which
which
is-
is even more complicated
Yeah.
to do. It's something you'll never see ever, any brand really do. And the finishing on this, incredible.
It's perfect.
Yeah.
There's nothing negative about this watch.
And even you can say, right, like some of their timepieces, some people don't like the 3/4 bridges because it's like, it's finished so beautifully, like why don't
Yeah.
you just show off the rest of the movement? This here actually gives you the full view of the chain and fusee, the tourbillon on the dial side.
Which is
It's-
unbelievable.
It's literally a Lange collector or just like a watch lover's wet dream right in front of you, right on wrist.
Totally, and I know we've talked about this before. We've had a watchmaker come in with the little links
Yeah.
on the fusee and chain.
Yeah, yeah,
and,
yeah.
and I mean, you could lose it,
Oh,
in
100%.
like your fingerprint. And I mean, they polish these.
Yeah.
It is unbelievable.
Yeah, it's crazy to think that they were doing this in 1994 when that was originally released. Obviously, again, this is a later. I think this came out in the mid to late 2010s kind of ish.
Yeah.
Would have been when this was released.
And they did a couple metal variations.
Again, this is kind of what when I think of Lange, right? I think technical prowess. Obviously, this is super, super impressive. And then we take it even up a notch with the Datograph Perpetual Tourbillon, which is just, I mean,
This is everything.
Doesn't get much better than
Yeah,
this.
and you know what I love about this watch? What's super fantastic about this watch? This is truly when you know watch. The tourbillon is only visible from the back. In true, under the radar, low profile Lange, the tourbillon is not on the dial at all. So you're buying a $300,000 watch where the tourbillon's truly for you.
Yeah.
The movement on this watch is, I mean, it's absolutely insane.
Oh yeah, 100%. It's got to be one of the craziest, movements anybody will ever see. And again, we'll show some close-up B-roll. But I think every little touch that they did was really perfect on this watch. From the fact that it's so legible, right? The big date, because that's really what you're going to need most
Absolutely.
of the time. Let's be honest. On a perpetual calendar, you're just
And that's synonymous with German watchmaking and Lange in particular.
100%. Then everything else is kind of really well balanced, perfectly symmetrical. And what's super functional is the fact you have the power reserve indicator also, which I really, really like for a manual wind watch because, something like this, a perpetual calendar,
100%.
It's a pain in the you-know-what to reset, so you can always keep it wound and keep it working. So yeah, this is just beautiful.
But there are so many cool things about this. So this here advances the calendar together.
Yeah.
What's unique about this is if you hit this when the crown's pushed in, it doesn't work. You can't screw the calendar up on accident. You have to pull the crown to advance everything via the pusher. Those little details like that alone, I think are mind-blowing.
Yeah.
And it's a very specific person who's going to buy. When this was retailed, it was $297,000 in the last version. That takes a special person to buy a tourbillon that's non-exposed.
Right, exactly.
You know what I mean? Like,
Because
I
at
think
least
that
you
says
could-
something about this collector.
I mean, you can see it here on the dial side, right? That's where you're paying.
Sure.
It's the money shot, right? That's purely for the pleasure of the wearer. That's really kind of the only reason you would buy it is because you love it so much. So we've seen kind of three really special Langes, in my opinion, right? I think all three of them kind of showcase one aspect of Lange that I love, right? Whether it's the technical prowess, whether it's the artistic prowess. I know some people will say, like, on the datograph, perpetual tourbillon, maybe it's a bit too thick, or like the case isn't as elegant as the Swiss, for example.
Sure.
But it's hard to capture that kind of complication in such little real estate, right? It's just impossible.
And I know you're a fan of this too. I think, the gateway drug to this, if this is too much, you can't go wrong with an 1850 chronograph.
100%. And it's still, without question, in my mind, right? I think about the best in-house manual wind chronograph on the market. It's not Patek Philippe. It's not FB Journe. It's not any other brand. It's A. Lange Sohne. And still the standard bearer. Every single brand is compared to A. Lange Sohne and the datograph, which was now at this point released in 1999? It's almost 27 years old.
Yeah,
almost
and you think about it,
27
they
years old.
were the first important house to go completely in-house with a chronograph.
Yeah.
I mean, Patek followed them.
Right. Year before, Patek released the 5070, which was still the Lemania-based calibers. And there's still some brands like Vacheron with the Corne de Vache that still use the Lemania-based calibers just because it's reliable, right?
Yeah, tried and true.
In-house manual wind chronographs is just, again, it's a testament to the technical prowess of Lange because it's so dang hard to do.
But what I love about this tray in particular, it's so different. I mean, you got your classic, old school throwback to
almost like a tuxedo. This is like a tux watch.
Absolutely. I mean, this is everything, man.
Yeah.
I love this. This is so unbelievable.
Yeah.
With the collapsible dial, the regulator dial, everything about that is just spectacular. And then this is at the forefront of watchmaking excellence.
Yeah.
Truly.
Yeah. I think this tray really doesn't get better than this tray in front of us. But guys, if you enjoyed this video, please let us know down in the comments. What are some of your favorite timepieces from Lange? It's always a pleasure, Rich, to share the stage with you. Thank you so much for sharing your knowledge.
Absolutely.
And
thank you.
Yeah, I look forward to seeing kind of more incredible rare Lange pieces. Hopefully we'll get to see another one of these. I would love to add one to the collection.
Me too. And if anyone knows anything about this
please let us know.
Arcade
Please.
with the engraved dial, please let us know. The reference number is 106046.
Yeah.
And everyone we've reached out to,
Nobody
never
knows.
seen another one.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Thank you so much for watching, guys. If you enjoyed this, please be sure to like the video. Subscribe for more videos like this in the future. As always, my name is Marco, joined by Rich for Berdine's Jewelry. We'll see you all in the next one.
thank you.